We've got a jam-packed show for everyone today. Before we dive into it, the boss man here at Chat Sports, James Yoder, is a big Michigan fan. He runs a Michigan account, and he was talking some smack about Browns fans and Ohio State football. So if you are a fan of the Buckeyes and you hate Michigan, go ahead and just tickle that like button. You don't have to smash it, but do whatever you please just to get that thumbs up icon hit. What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson breaking down the latest Browns rumors on today's show. We've got a lot of ground to cover. We're going to look at the latest on both quarterbacks, right? Baker Mayfield potentially going to Carolina, plus Deshaun Watson spoke to the Cleveland media literally 5 minutes before we started filming. So producer Jeff and I hit pause, and we got the latest takeaways and nuggets from that. Plus, we'll have other stories along with shoutouts at the end of the show. But a good tool I like to use once in a while is our friend Bernie Kosar and Bernie Heads to get a scale of believability. So 0 Bernie heads on a story means fake news, not going to happen. We go all the way to 4 Bernie heads, which is Believeland. You can take it to the bank, and we fall in between. So first story on the agenda, Baker Mayfield off to Carolina. I'm giving this 3 Bernie heads. I'm not all the way there at 4 Bernie heads Believeland because we've heard before these two sides have been in talks, but the latest report is those talks are very much advancing. So Jonathan Jones from CBS Sports put this tweet out this morning. I woke up to it like many of you did, saying, as minicamp begins today for the Browns and Panthers, trade talks between the teams continue surrounding quarterback Baker Mayfield per sources. The main issue remains Mayfield's salary and how much or how little teams pay. Jonathan would go on to tweet saying, there's urgency on Carolina's side to execute the deal soon so Mayfield can get some time in minicamp with the Panthers. For the Browns, it's the best offer they have, talks ongoing. Honestly, you may be hearing from me shortly later today about a trade going down. So let's break this down. Baker's got that big $18.9 million cap hit this year. We know that. It's fully guaranteed. The Browns have been a bit stubborn, reports might say, about eating some of that money. Initially, it looked like they wanted someone else to eat all of it, but we know that Carolina and Cleveland have come close before, according to reports on a deal. It's like Jonathan said, it's all coming down to how much of that salary the Browns are willing to eat. Also, remember, Baker not at Browns minicamp, and according to, I'm not a stalker, but I do follow Emily Mayfield on Instagram. They were in Mexico. They were in Cabot, I think, or near Cabot a little bit. But let's look at Baker versus Sam Darnold first, before I start giving my takes and whatnot. Is there really a debate here as to who the better quarterback is, right? Both drafted in 2018, a couple picks apart, and I mean, Sam, he's got an issue with hanging out with the ladies in the New York City nightclubs, picking up the kissing disease, but Baker's better, right? And then this isn't a conversation as to who's a better quarterback. It is Baker so much better that the Panthers want to give up a pick and take on some of that contract? I think that's the discussion Carolina's having. So my first reaction to that, to the Jonathan Jones tweet and rumor update, is what I tweeted out. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. But to me, it's Carolina, who first off, it looked like the Browns used to have no leverage. Maybe that's changed now. But Carolina's kind of got this double-edged sword going on right now, okay? If they want to wait because they believe, hey, if we wait long enough, Andrew Berry might get desperate because he doesn't want to put Baker on his 53-man roster and take a roster spot away from, I don't know, like a Demetric Felton or someone of that bubble sorts, and we could get him for cheap. But the other side of the coin is if we do wait till August, and then we bring Baker in, and we got to wait a couple weeks to have him, catch up on the playbook, and all of a sudden, the first 3 weeks of the season, he's still learning the offense, and we wasted a ton of time over the summer because we were playing poker with Andrew Berry. You know how this could maybe backfire on the Panthers, who, Matt Rule, in my opinion, he's got to win this year because he won't be coaching a top draft pick who they get next year. He likely will get canned. But in case some Panthers fans trickled over to this channel because they want to, see what's out there about Baker, who do you think the better quarterback is? I think it's Baker Mayfield. I mean, we have all been maybe ragging on the guy a little bit because all of a sudden he's not as pretty next to Deshaun Watson. But to me, it's a closed book, no discussion. I'm putting 6 in the comments. Let me know what you guys are down below. As for the battle of leverage, that's been like the buzzword of the century for the Browns trading Baker. Barry may smell blood in the water. He may be a shark right now and go, whoa. For a while, we were the team that had no leverage, right? Everyone knew we had to get rid of Baker. We didn't want to pay him $18.9 million. We don't want to just outright cut him. But all of a sudden, maybe it's like, Michael Scott, flip, sip, snap, turntables. Because all of a sudden the Panthers are the team that on the outside looking in going, well, we need Baker now because we want him here for minicamp, and we want him here for the summer, and we want him here for all of training camp and not midway through or a mid-season trade. So Barry all of a sudden might have turned the tables on the Panthers to get a trade more in his favor in terms of what draft pick compensation and the salary could look like. On to the second story, maybe the bigger story of the two. It's pretty neck and neck, but Deshaun Watson. We got the latest press conference takeaways and whatnot, but is he going to get suspended? About 7 games. That's what Vegas thinks. I give this 2 Bernie heads. I'm kind of right in the middle of the road because, to be honest, if you think he's getting a 0-game suspension and you're willing to bet your life on it, you are a bolder man than I am because I am not. Before we look at all the latest on that front, when Baker gets traded, it may be today, honestly. Maybe I'm going to be talking to you guys in a couple hours. We will get an instant reaction video out to you. We also provide you free daily Browns content, so if you're coming across our Browns channel for the first time, wondering what the heck this is, well, it's a daily Browns news and rumors content that is closing in on 10,000 subscribers. We're going to give shout-outs later on in the video to some new subs, but if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. So, the Vegas side of this, because Vegas, they know a thing or two, and they put the total games Watson is suspended at 7.5. Basically, they're kind of cornering the between 6 to 8 range because, for example, that's what Ian Rappaport, who hopped on Pat McAfee the other day, said. It's hard to say. He doesn't really want to put a concrete number down, but if he had to guess, he would think it'd be somewhere in the range of 4 to 10 games. And so Vegas maybe splitting in the middle, going, let's go 7.5, even though it's going to be an even number suspension most likely if it were to happen. Now, Vegas also put more odds. They said, all right, not only over-under, but do you think he'll be suspended at all? And this is the more intriguing one. They are very confident that whether it's before or during the season, Deshaun Watson will face some sort of suspension. They put it at minus 400. If you don't know betting lingo, basically you'd have to bet $400 just to make $100 in the yes category. That's how confident they are that they believe a suspension is coming. And sadly, Vegas always knows, right? You know what I'm saying? If you're a degenerate gambler like me, and every now and then you see a fishy line out there, and you're like, why is that team such a big favorite? They're not that much better. And then it ends up happening? Yeah, Vegas always knows. Vegas doesn't want to lose money. They're not just going out on a whim and saying, we'll have one of the interns pick it, right? Intern Jeff, can you put a number out there? 7.5? Sounds good. Let's go back to the craps table. No, they probably have a little bit of intel onto what the suspension could look like for Watson. But here's my question for you. Before we look at some press conference takeaways from Berea depending on when you're watching this, 20, 30 minutes ago, if he is suspended, how long do you think it would be, right? Get your votes in, get your predictions in down below. I'll say 8 games. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just trying to be realistic and honest with you guys, okay? I'm not saying I think that he deserves an 8-game suspension or that he is guilty of these allegations, but I know how the NFL works. And it's a little different now because they have arbitration. They have an arbiter who's going to, it's a former U.S. District County judge or U.S. District judge who's going to make the decision. But I think 8 games, based on what a lot of the big J's are saying, probably feels about right. Next up on the show, Deshaun Watson speaks to the media. So we're going to look at some takeaways from there, some quotes, some tweets and whatnot that came out of that media session. But first, we got jerseys. If you don't want to invest in a jersey, because let's be honest, jerseys are expensive, and it backfires when you maybe get a Baker Mayfield or an Odell Beckham or a Jarvis Landry jersey, and they're not here for, a long, long time. So you can maybe kind of meet yourself in the middle. Get a custom Browns t-shirt at chatsports.com/Browns shirt. I got that link in the comments and the description. Watson spoke to the media, and this is, I think, one of the bigger takeaways I had. Maybe a good quote to take away. He said, "I'm happy to be a Cleveland Brown. This is going to be my home for the rest of my career." I mean, if you are excited about Deshaun Watson being your quarterback, this is something you love to see, right? This is content that you can just inject right into your veins. Cameron Justice does a great job of covering the Browns. I thought had a great tweet you guys should see. So she tweeted out, Browns Deshaun Watson said, "I don't think so," when asked if 66 massage therapists was the appropriate number he hired in a 17-month span. So Cameron is referring to the New York Times article that claims Deshaun Watson met with at least 66 massage therapists, which is a very high number in a relatively short time span. So Watson, for the first time since March 25th, late March, speaking to the media, and he is offering some rebuttal to the claims that have come out against him, the allegations, right, from the New York Times article that dropped 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, where he says, you know what? No, I don't think it was 66. That number seems too high. An interesting tweet I saw from More For You Cleveland, another good follow on Twitter. They said, my biggest thing is just wanting to Deshaun Watson said, my biggest thing is just wanting to clear my name. Deshaun Watson, after reiterating he never forced anything or assaulted any women, says he will continue to push for the truth to be heard. And that's very interesting. That's maybe my bigger takeaway was Watson fielded a lot of questions, and none of them asked him about how cover 2 defense works. They were all about the allegations, as, of course, the journalists are going to do at this time period. But he fielded a lot of questions regarding, hey, we've heard that you once, didn't want to settle, and then a report came out that you wanted to settle for $100,000. Which one is it, and would you settle now? And the common answer he gave, and he was being a bit of a politician, right? Didn't, give great black and white answers, but still, a common theme and a common thread was he believes in his innocence, and he wants to prove that. He wants to clear his name, and he wants that to be shown through the discipline and the outcome of this entire investigation. He is confident, I guess you could say, that he does not need to settle, and he wants to let the record speak for itself and clear his name up. Final story on the show. This one's kind of a doozy. Baker Mayfield, is he going to get released? We go all the way from potentially going to the Panthers to an outright release. One Bernie head. Just one Bernie head for me. Small shreds of truth. And I don't think it's quite fake news because I don't think you could just dismiss the idea, although I do think it's a long shot. But ESPN's Dan Graziano reported that the NFL execs believe that Mayfield will be released. So Graziano was talking about Mayfield and Jimmy Garoppolo the other day and what the most likely outcome is for these two guys. And let me share the quote with you because it's pretty interesting. He said, the majority of the people to whom I spoke for this story believe both players, referring to Jimmy G and Baker, will likely end up being released. A couple of people thought Garoppolo might still draw trade interest, provided an acquiring team could work out something to knock down the salary or spread it over a couple of years. So, we're here talking about Baker being released. And I tweeted about it, and Cardiac Dogs podcast, a great Browns podcast. We're giving tons of plugs today. They replied to my tweet and a nice little back and forth, but they said if Andrew Berry doesn't get the return he wants on Baker, I think they'll use a 53-man roster spot on him just because they get a comp pick third next offseason for him when he leaves as a free agent. Third rounder in next draft is their leverage, so a team will have to make a better offer. And I get the mindset of, hey, you put Baker on the roster and you just let him sit at home for the entire season because you don't get a trade better than a third-round pick, which you would get in a comp pick next year when Baker signs a free agency, or maybe 2 years actually. But I don't think, you should buy into the comp pick, okay? That's a long way away from now, and I don't think – and also – you don't just necessarily get a third if Baker signs elsewhere. It takes into account what you do in free agency. So if the Browns are spenders in free agency, they're not going to get that third rounder for Baker. Okay, they kind of cancel out. So that's a light years away. But my question is, will Andrew Berry put Baker on this roster? Is that the deadline? Does he want to use a 53-man roster spot on Baker Mayfield. I think it's worth it as opposed to just cutting him before, cut day and just getting nothing for him. Personally, I would put him on the roster, and I wouldn't bank on a comp pick, but I'd bank on an in-season injury, and boy, is Baker valuable then. Let's wrap up the show with some shout-outs here. Some new subs-ish. Some of you guys trying to pull a fast one on me. But Mr. Rem Raider, appreciate you, my guy. Jeremy Barnes, Big Daddy Snapper, Liamo, Mudflaps, Centrion, I hope I pronounced that correct, Brandon Sander, Young Jib, Andrew Francis. That is a Nordic name I'm not going to get across. On to the next one, but shout out to you, buddy. Aaron Wright, Jim's a sneaky guy. He's not a new sub, but you get a shout out along with Zach Schaefer, Levi Mayfield, and Alex Sika. Always appreciate seeing you in the comment section and interacting with everyone down below. So make sure you light up the comment section with your thoughts, your takes, whatever it may be after each episode. Hit that big red button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later, hopefully talking about Baker Mayfield being traded for 3 first-round picks.